All right, so this is session 4 of 6 of Latin for Parents, and we are today going to be learning about adjectives, prepositions, and adverbs in Latin. Here we go. Prepositions, adjectives, and adverbs. All right, so first, what is a preposition? A preposition the prepositions are those little words that show a noun's relationship to the rest of the sentence. We have those in English as well as in Latin. So here are some English versions of this. Some English examples would include in the house, the in is the preposition part. In over the moon, the over is the preposition part. After the dawn, the after is the preposition. And between the cats, the between is the preposition. And one of my silly human tricks is that I still remember the preposition song that my 6th grade teacher taught me forever ago with every English preposition. I don't know if you have one of those at your house as well. I won't necessarily sing the whole thing for you now, but it is a quantifiable number of prepositions in the English language. So like with, on, for, after, at, by, in, against, instead of, near, between. But anyway, the whole thing goes on that way. Latin also has a discrete number of prepositions that we can learn. Otherwise, other definitions to know today, objects of the preposition. An object of the preposition is the noun that is in that relationship. So we just referred to how the preposition relates a word to the rest of the sentence. The noun there is the object of the preposition. When you put those two things together, the preposition and an object of the preposition, you have a prepositional phrase. Now, there's a preposition and a prepositional phrase in a preposition and an object of the preposition in a prepositional phrase, but you can also have modifying adjectives. So in our English examples here, you could say between the happy cats or between the gray cats or whatever. You can have any adjectives that you want that modify the object of the preposition that is a noun. Here are some Latin preposition examples. Here on the left, we have in, cum, ad, a or ab, a or x. So this is nearly all of them. We have a lot fewer prepositions in Latin than we do in English. Latin prepositions are followed by an object of the preposition in either the accusative or the ablative case. We're going to talk about that here in just a little bit, but you can tell here in and on can be ablative or accusative. Ad has to take the accusative, right? So a or x has to take the ablative. This is something that we learn while we are learning prepositions, and it is something that is important for the actual vocabulary word itself. Now, how to tell the difference between a preposition that takes an object in the accusative versus the ablative. Generally, it must be memorized, but generally, prepositions that take the accusative, meaning that the object of the preposition, that noun, is in the accusative.
Did you know we were over here
Oh.
the whole time?
You don't want to watch.
I'm gonna see if I can mute you just real quick.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh no, you're fine. Hello. So generally, prepositions that take the accusative case show movement toward. So things like to or like past, like you're running past something, you're going past it. Between, anything, any preposition that shows movement toward the object of the preposition is going to take the accusative case. And prepositions that take the ablative, meaning that the object of the preposition is in the ablative case, either show movement away, like away from, or like, what's another one that's a good one, like out of, or no movement at all, like in or concerning, right? Two prepositions, and only two, can take either case, but when they take a different case, the meanings change. So if you have the word in, which is a Latin word as well as an English word, the word in, if it has an accusative case object, it means into or onto. But if that in has an ablative case object, then it means in or on. Sub plus the accusative means up to. Now, the way that I can help kids understand how this is the same thing as the sub that means below is, like, picture that I was standing on a chair, which I do for the kids themselves, and there's a flood that's rising. I might say the flood is up to my knees. It's showing movement toward, but it's still coming from below. And that's the reason that sub can take the accusative. It means up to. And sub plus the ablative means below. When your students get there, and that is 4th grade, 5th grade, 7th grade, then you will be having kids who are memorizing all of the Latin prepositions. By the way, the Latin prepositions are also one of the richest minds that we have for English derivatives. So I don't know if you can tell here, but like even the word inter, like interstate, like there's a million inter words that are in English. And if you can remember that it's between, it'll really help. So interject. I'm going to interject. Ject means throw. I'm going to throw something in the middle of you. Yeah, interdiction is a bigger vocabulary word, but if you didn't know what that meant, and you know dict means speak and inter means into, so I'm going to, an interdiction is to speak into a situation, right? All right. Here are some examples of Latin case prepositions for everyone to see. Let's see if I can get this out of the way. I don't know if I can. All right. Femina prope hortum stat. You can see that the femina in the sentence is the subject. Stat means stands or is standing. And then prope hortum. Prope is the preposition and hortum is the object of the preposition. It's in the accusative case because prope is one of those that takes the accusative. Oops. Bos, which means the bull here or the cow. Ambulat is walking. In hortum, into the garden. So you can see that hortum right there is still in the accusative case. That makes that in say into, because the in plus the accusative means into instead of in. We're, there's the man, festinat, hurries or is hurrying, ad hortum, to the garden. This is the prepositional phrase in the accusative case right there. At the bottom, you're going to see a few more. Sunt, there are. Flores, there are flowers. Per hortum, through the garden. You can tell this is, again, this accusative case ending because per takes the accusative. But here's one that isn't accusative. A pig, porcus. By the way, a porcus is a baby pig. A sus, like swine, is a big pig. So a baby pig. Est is in horto, in the garden. Up here, we saw in hortum. Same word in, but this one has the accusative, means into. Down here, in horto means in. So a pig is in the garden. Up here, if we were to change this and say bos in horto ambulat, that means the cow is walking in the garden, like he's walking around inside the garden. Okay, last little example here. Canis, there he is. There's the dog. He ambulats, he walks. Cum viro, he walks with the man. Now, viro takes the is an ablative case because cum takes the ablative. Unlike in and sub, it cannot take an accusative case. The only two prepositions that can are in and sub. And when you get there with your student, that in is going to be on both the accusative list and the ablative list. All right, so that was all the prepositions. So the 4th graders, 5th graders, 7th graders are primarily working with prepositions this year. Adjectives. We're going to start with 4th graders, 5th graders. Everybody needs adjectives. First, let's talk about what adjectives are. Just like in English, adjectives modify or describe nouns by answering these questions. Which one? How many? And what kind? The how many one, those are numbers, right? Because numbers are adjectives. By the way, ject means throw. So like if you inject something, you throw it into somebody. Add means to. So that's the preposition add right there. Adjectives. This has 2 different Latin words and it's a derivative for both. And it means something that is thrown to. So I'm going to describe that noun. I'm going to throw something onto it. I'm going to adject it. Adjectives have 3 parts to their vocabulary forms. If you were here with us for the first 3 sessions, you will know that verbs have 4 forms. Nouns have 2 forms, plus a gender. And then adjectives have 3 parts to their vocabulary forms. The reason that that's true is because they have one for each gender, masculine, feminine, and neuter. Remember that nouns all have gender because an adjective needs to modify any noun. You need to be able to say we have a large man, a woman, and a large town. The word large has to match each one of them. So here we have the masculine, feminine, and neuter endings. Magnus, magna, magnum means large or great, and we try to be charitable and use the word great when speaking to people or speaking about people. And bonus, bona, bono means good. But three forms every time. Now, this is not necessarily true for you eighth grade parents. If you have an eighth grader, this version of adjectives is the basic version, and it does get a bit more complicated for you guys. But by the time the eighth graders are there, they've had enough practice with this kind that we don't throw them too much when we add in the next forms. All right, this is what it looks like. Move this over for us here. Maybe. There we go. This is what it looks like to decline an adjective. An adjective has three forms, and all three of those forms are the nominative singular form for a gender. So you'll see this one here is the masculine form, and it's here, masculine nominative singular. This one is the feminine form, and it's right here, nominative singular feminine. And this third form is the neuter nominative singular form, right? Now, we need to be able to figure out what the stem is of an adjective, just like we can find the stem of a verb and we can find the stem of a noun. But the good news is the directions to find the stem are always the same, no matter what kind of word it is. For a verb, go to the second principal part and chop off the ending. For a noun, go to the second principal part and chop off the ending. And guess what? For an adjective, go to the second part and chop off the ending. So let's do it. Second part, let's go chop off the ending. Now, which part is the ending here? The part that's the ending is the ah, because these endings, if you were here for nouns, these endings should look familiar. Us, e, o, e, orm, is, os, is. They are identical to noun endings. And the feminine nominative singular ending is ah. So that's the ending that we chop off. Then once we find the stem, which is here, long, then we put it everywhere. In fact, declining an adjective takes a really long time because there are 30 possible forms. But we put the stem everywhere, and then we put on our old standard endings. Us, e, o, e, orm, is, os, is, I, am, I, arm, is, as, is, e, o, a, orm, is, a, is. And that is an entire adjective completely declined. Here we go. This is the big idea of the day for adjectives. Adjectives must agree with the nouns they modify in three ways: case, number, and gender. And if you were here to learn about nouns, you learned that those are the three characteristics of nouns: case, number, and gender. And adjectives must agree with the nouns they modify in these three ways. Now, why does that matter? Because Latin does not have a word order. And so, because you can take the words and put them in any order whatsoever, in order to know what the adjective is modifying, it has to match in case, number, gender. In English, we know which adjective goes with which noun because they're right next to each other. If I said that I have a black cat and a white dog, you know that my dog is white and my cat is black because I said them together. It's the word order. However, in Latin, it would be a totally acceptable construction to have the black match the dog in case, number, gender, and white match the cat in case, number, gender. And when you read it, it would be the opposite of what it would be in English because the word order themselves completely do not matter. All right, so we're going to do a little practicing here with adjective agreement. This is practicing the big idea of the day, and it's important that our kids practice the big ideas too. So this is magnus, magna, magnum, the adjective that means great or large. And then I've also given us the stem here and completely declined the entire thing. Now up here, I have given us a couple of nouns that are totally declined out. I have puer, which means boy, and that's a masculine noun. And then nauta, which means sailor. But here's the thing, this is also a masculine noun. This is a masculine noun because it is called a pain word. It is a masculine noun that looks like it's probably going to be feminine because it has those first declension endings. So I'm going to remind us that this is masculine and that, oh, I guess I better choose a different color. Going to remind us that this is masculine and so is this. I chose this one on purpose because this is a pain word. It is a first declension masculine word. Your kids may have referred to it as pain because the four words that we learn initially spell the word pain. Poeta, agricola, incola, and nauta. That's a pain word. It's a masculine noun. Now, let's figure out how to put these together. Let's choose black. Okay. Now, here we have Magnus. Magnus means great. And puer. Puer, see how they're nominative singular masculine? So we could put them together. We could say puer Magnus. And that means great boy. Then we could also go genitive. And we could say pueri Magni. You see how they match in case, number, gender. And this would say of the great boy. And we could keep going that way entirely. Now, here's the thing. I always say adjectives must match in case, number, gender, but sometimes the endings will not match because remember, nauta, though it looks feminine, is masculine. So let's say great soldier. Let's use our nominative singular here, our great soldier, or sailor, excuse me. Nauta. Now our nominative singular masculine is Magnus. Nauta Magnus, the great sailor, right? We could do this with any of them. Let's do genitive plural, let's say. Let's have a nautarum magnorum. They don't match, but in the way that they look, but they do match in case, number, gender, and so they go together. So this says of, because it's genitive, of the great sailors. Now, when your students are first learning this, they will go through and decline each one of these. We can do one with masculine, with feminine, and with neuter. So let's use the neuter noun oppidum oppidi, which means town. And let's do a little bit of declining. Let's decline oppidum oppidi, neuter town, and let's say it's a great town. And let's do it just in the singular for now. That looks like this. Oppidum magnum. Then oppidum magni. So the great town of the great town. Oh, not oppidum. What am I doing here? Oppidi magni. There we go. Then oppido magno. See how they almost always look alike? Not always, but almost always. Then oppidum magnum, the great town. Oppido magno, to or by, with, from the great town. This is how you decline these things. Now, there is no word order in Latin, but sometimes, even most of the time, the adjective goes after the noun. In fact, that's actually not just in Latin, that's actually in most languages in the world. English is pretty different, that we put our adjectives before our nouns. In fact, in English, I could say that there was a big, slimy, hairy, scaly cat. And in your mind, you have built up this entire picture of what I was going to say, but you didn't know what it was until I got to the noun at the end. Latin goes the exact opposite way. There's a cat. What kind of cat? A big, slimy, hairy, scaly one, right? So the noun comes into the mind first, and then all of the adjectives behind it. If the adjectives are in a different place, does it matter? No. but generally, Latin authors will stick the adjective behind the noun. If your student puts the adjective before the noun, it will not count against them. But we do teach them that it's behind because especially when we get to original texts, like Virgil or Cicero or Caesar, they want to look after the noun to find the adjectives that go with it. To illustrate this point, here's just a little comic for you here. Automaton is a Neo-Latin word that means robot. So automatum, sum, I am. Sum means I am. I am a robot. What kind of a robot? See how it matches? A walidum, a brave. And calidum, clever. I'm a brave and clever robot. That's what he says. All right, last little bit. Adverbs. Adverbs, remember odd means two. Remember how adjectives throw to the nouns? Odd verbs to the verbs. That's because adjectives modify verbs. They also can modify adjectives or other adverbs. That's true in English and it's true in Latin. In Latin, adverbs commonly end in the letter e, or iter. They can end in all sorts of things, but generally they end in these words or these letters. Now, we don't get very far into adverbs until we get to high school because it's just a little one-off word that we need to learn, and it's usually at the bottom of the vocabulary list. So I'm not going very far in this presentation and how to form adverbs or any of that, because by the time we get there, hopefully your student will have far outpaced you and they will be a sophomore or junior in high school. Adverbs, however, cannot be declined. There's only one form. That's why we love them. There is no stem. There is no ending to put on them. They don't have to match anything. They are one form only. That said, here are some common adverbs. Non means not. So, sto means I am standing. Non sto, I'm not standing. But remember, word order doesn't matter. I could say sto non, and that would be fine too. Bene means well. Kids will say it means good, but that's just because they're misrepresenting their English. If I say, how are you doing? And they say, bene, they think they're saying good, but really it's well, because that's the adjectival form. They're doing well. Optime means literally greatly, but if I say, how are you doing? And they say optime, that means I'm doing great. Male is badly. Hodie is today. Certe, certainly. I say this to them a lot in class. Certe, certainly. And ferociter is fiercely. This isn't very common, but it's good because I told you the iter ending does show up there. For the National Latin exam for those 7th graders who are going to be taking it, they need to be looking for those endings specifically, the E on the end and the iter, in order to be able to find an adverb. All right. Well, I am thankful for all of your good attention tonight. We actually have a much shorter time today because we had already done all that work with nouns, so we knew all of our endings already. And now you know how to put those adjectives with them. And with that, I am thankful for your attention, and I am ready to take any questions that you might have. And then we can go and enjoy the last bits of our beautiful evening. Does anyone have any questions for me before we get going? All right. Well, gracias, Tiago. Thank you so much, very much for being here, and I hope you have a great night. Valete, omnes.